This is the English translation of the story of how Andrew Spong left Sweden to come to America, found in the small booklet Emigrated, which means district or countryside around the town of Räftele, Sweden, published in Jönköping in 1948. It is titled Farm in Die Village, Räftele, Småland. Justus Johansson, from the village of Näsesmy near Räftele, can remember the soldier farm called Number 62 Kurt. It was first inhabited by a soldier by the name of Rolf. His wife went by the nickname Sledgehammer. A farmer from Bredaryd settled in Lilla Gotsbo and was asking around for a sledgehammer. The soldier Lager directed him to the soldier Rolf in Kurt, but didn't get to loan Rolf's sledgehammer. A soldier named Hilt followed Rolf. Hilt bought part of the soldier farm and the buildings. Upon his retirement as a soldier, the southern portion of Kurt remained to support the future soldiers serving this district. Spong was the next of these soldiers, and he was from Ekenas, near Anderstrop. He had bought a little farm in the village of Klo, within the Anderstrop parish. So he did not demand a domicile in Kurt at first. Later, Spong pestered the farmers, who were supposed to support the soldier for Kurt, and demanded a house be built on his soldier farm at Kurt. They argued back and forth about a house. Spong was not able to manage in Klo, and he complained constantly to his peasant masters for a home at Kurt at their expense, not at his expense. Finally, Spong told them to give him a house or his discharge, so he could immigrate to America. They gave him his discharge, and the family immigrated to America. The family grew to 13 surviving children. Some of his sons became Lutheran pastors. One son lived near San Francisco. Spong died several years ago in Texas at nearly 90 years of age. This was translated by David Skoglund of Austin, Texas, 1998. A footnote: Justus Johansson from Kullen in Näsesmo was a distant cousin of Spong's aunt by marriage, Fredrika Svensk. His wife, Emilia, daughter of Fredrika's cousin, Johanna, was a second cousin of Ms. Elizabeth Swedes+Johnson and her siblings. The Spong written about here was Andrew Spong, later Spong, born south of Bredaryd, Småland, Sweden in 1857, and immigrated to America in early 1881. He lived his life in Texas and died in 1942 and is buried near Hutto, Texas. The city of Hutto celebrated its centennial on July 17th, the day of its incorporation in 1911. The Swedes had already been in the community for over 20 years. Prior to the stream of Swedish immigrants arriving in the early 1880s, Hutto was still primarily prairie and grazing land. Residents were a collection of ranchers and merchants and tradesmen who had moved to central Texas primarily from the Old South, seeking opportunity in the West and following the railroad. Second and third generation American families like Hutto, McCutcheon, Farley, Saul, Goodwin, and others. The Swedes' arrival in significant numbers was largely the result of recruitment by men such as Arvid Nelson, S.M. Swenson, and the Palm brothers. They had immigrated to the Austin, Brushy, and Palm Valley areas years before, primarily from Småland, and were actively engaged in the recruitment of more Swedes from the home country. Their route to Hutto typically involved young Swedes packing their modest belongings, leaving their families and homeland to take a 3 to 4 week trip on a steamship from Göteborg to Liverpool, England, and then across the Atlantic to New York. Then overland through the Midwest, perhaps meeting and being helped by other Swedes who had immigrated earlier, or by boat again from New York to Galveston. Once in Texas, they would locate a friend or relative or their sponsor, men like Nelson and Swenson and the Palms, and work for them to pay for their passage and learn farming. Able to save some money, after 2 or 3 years they could lease land and farm on their own. After leasing for a few years, able to make and save more money, they could buy their own land and establish their own homestead. That was the formula: worker, renter, owner. Among these were Andrew and Augusta Spong. Andrew Spong arrived in 1881 at the age of 23 and was joined by his wife Augusta and children Alma, Axel, and Victor several years later. After a brief stay in Connecticut, they lived in Decker, Austin, Walnut, and Jonah, eventually establishing a homestead 8 miles north of the city, where they built a classic 2-story home in the Swedish style in 1900. That house was only one of many that dotted the landscape in every direction, most with the distinctive red barn nearby. The Spong homestead is now part of the Williamson+County landfill. Of course, there were many other Swedish families involved in the development of the community, including Swenson, Johnson, Peterson, Jernquist, Charlstrom, Carlson, Radell, Holmstrom, Lindgren, and too many others to name here. Many had roots in the Brushy and Palm Valley colonies. They tended to be large families. Andrew and Augusta Spong had 14 children, eventually 48 grandchildren. The Spong family counts 6 ordained Lutheran pastors in its numbers. They are Victor Spong, Reuben Spong, Bernard Spong, Gordon Spong, Kurt+Johnson, and Don Holmstrom. As these families grew and intermarried, their common background, challenges, struggles, and deep religious and family convictions must have fostered a deep sense of community. The Swedish Lutheran Church in Hutto was established in 1892, with Andrew Spong a charter member, and contributed in a major way, not just to the religious life, but to the educational and social life of the Hutto community as well. The Spongs and many Swede families like them contributed to making the Hutto community, not just as a place on the map, but in the people-to-people way. This community building preceded the formal founding of the city by 20 years and made the city not only possible, but vibrant and successful. It is likely that those early Swedes must have written to their relatives back in Sweden, "Landet är bra och liv är bra I Hutto, Texas." The land is good and life is good in Hutto, Texas.